A former vice president of the United States is sparking some serious controversy today after deciding to sell his fledgling, well, failing, I guess, cable news network to a Mideastern organization that has expressed some very anti-American sentiments in recent years. Al Gore officially sold his operation Current TV to Al-Jazeera for about $500 million. And while the sale alone is sparking some heated discussions, some say the timing of the deal is controversial as well. Stu Varney is the host of Varney and Company on FBN, and Lisa Daftari is a journalist with extensive experience in the Middle East. Well. So Current TV, which nobody's ever heard of, most of our viewers have never heard of this thing. It's in 40 million households. Only 42,000 people were watching it on a given night. That's not good. Just FYI, from being in the cable world, I can tell you. Okay, so he sold it, which is a business decision, was not a bad idea.
Right.
Now they say Glenn Beck tried to buy it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But Stuart, he didn't want to sell it to Glenn Beck because he felt that that would not be ideologically pure.
Right.
They wanted the purchaser to be in line with their own Current TV's ideology.
Right.
So they went with Al-Jazeera?
Yes.
What does that tell us?
Current TV rebuffed Glenn Beck and said, we are sensitive to networks not aligned with our point of view. Glenn apparently is not of the same point of view as Current TV.
Well, that's true.
So they jump ship.
But Al-Jazeera?
Yeah, right. Al-Jazeera, raise your eyebrows. So Al, Mr. Gore, tries to sell this thing before December 31st because he's going to make a profit on his stake.
Of how much?
If he can, don't know, but he's going to take $100 million out of the $500 million sale price, because he owns 20%.
So that's his share, $100 million.
Not all of that's profit.
Right.
But he will have made a profit. If he could have completed the sale before December 31st, he'd pay a lower tax rate on that profit than he has by selling it in 2013. So here you have a leftist scrambling to avoid the very tax which the left wants to impose on rich people.
Which, ironically, were the Clinton tax rates. And who was vice president when Clinton was president? Al Gore! There, it's all coming together.
I think you got it.
Okay, but there is some controversy in Al Jazeera being the heir apparent to this. You know, now Al Jazeera, it's going to be, they say, maybe Al Jazeera America, that's going to be in 40 million American homes, potentially. Time Warner said, not on our cable, and they've already said no. But what are the implications of that? What is the meaning of that?
Well, we already know what their platform is. They haven't been shy about, talking about 9/11 controversies and talking about the Taliban from their point of view and criticizing American efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the only thing they were lacking was a legitimized American platform, and here they have it, as you said, into 40 million homes. Now, the problem is going to be is they're recognized as a terrorist network by many Americans, so they're going to have some trouble gaining that.
Well, but is that Al Jazeera Arabic, or is that
right?
Because Al Jazeera Arabic is the one that was running all those Bin Laden videos. Remember, right, after 9/11, but then they had a separate Al Jazeera that was English, less strident,
right,
and
so
less.
If you put them next to each other, the one that's broadcast in the Arabic language is much more harsh, let's say, than Al Jazeera English. Now, Al Jazeera American, I think that's exactly what they're going to do. They're trying to play nice to get these cable providers to carry them, because that's going to be the biggest challenge. Right now, they're not being carried by more than a handful of these cable providers.
But what could Al Gore be thinking? I mean, if he really wanted to sell to somebody who had his same ideology, he's a former vice president of the United States of America. Even if you don't agree with him ideologically, I mean, he's our former vice president. So he wants to sell to somebody who's in line with his thinking. So he sells to Al Jazeera, which even a former Nightline reporter went to work for Al Jazeera in Washington. He quit because he said they're anti-American. Even the Washington
New York Times called out Al Jazeera. New York Times
called them out
because they said that the Israelis knew about 9/11, and that's why
they said the Jews were given a heads up before 9/11 and that they left the World Trade Center.
So if you have the New York Times calling them out, and then you have Al Gore preferring to give this network to Al Jazeera rather than to Glenn Beck.
Wait a minute. He's not giving it. He's gone to Al Jazeera because Al Jazeera's got the money.
Well, that's the answer to the question. So it's not necessarily about ideology, you say.
No. This is all about money. Al Gore has made a great deal of money in his time. He's a senior advisor to Google. He was on the Apple board of directors. He's got his own venture capital company. And I have to quote our colleague, Bernie Goldberg, because he is selling this network to Qatar-based Al Jazeera. And as Bernie Goldberg says, Al Gore hates oil, that's Qatar, but he loves oil money. That's why he's selling to Al-Jazeera.
But
They
he had
got
a
the
choice.
money.
But he had a choice. He chose petrodollars over Beck dollars.
Yes.
Well, Glenn Beck.
That was ideology.
Glenn
That's
Beck
ideology.
was not even allowed to submit a bid. He wasn't even on the list of potential bidders. That's how abhorrent they found the notion of Glenn Beck taking over.
Because they shaped this network. They wanted to maintain the ideology of this network.
Well, speaking of the ideology, current TV is very far to the left, very far to the left. I mean, it's
to the left of left.
Yeah, it's to the left of anything you've ever heard of. Okay, so, but it failed. I mean, it failed. Now it's failed. You know, liberal talk radio has failed. There doesn't seem to be a big market for this kind of messaging.
But what they're hoping is that the Americans are now turned on to international news. We're past our election, and that this is a market that they could hopefully fill. They were looking for the viewers. They were looking for an American network, and that's what they're going to
Well, the articles that write about this talk about how there's not a lot of international news right now on American newscasts. And you know why that is? Because the people drive the newscast. They don't want to hear about a ton of international news. They want to hear about what's happening in America with some flavor.
Yes.
You know, they want to know what's happening in the world. But an international news-based organization, I mean, is that going to fly here?
I don't think so. The BBC provides cable service, the BBC World Service. You can get it on various American cable companies.
I know, those days when I
not-
cannot sleep, and I just...
Well, that's the kiss of death.
I
You
put it
realise
on.
that? Don't turn it on when you can't sleep to put you to sleep. That's a
I
terrible
like their
thing.
programming. I love Sherlock.
Well, what about the hosts on current TV? Joy Behar, Elliot Spitzer, Jennifer Granholm, and they got rid of Keith Olbermann. I mean, that's not a lineup of talent that's going to draw a serious interest. And now they're going to sweep
Are those
that
people
clean.
are being fired? I mean, Obermann's been gone, but are those other people? They're all
I
going to be
believe so.
fired.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I think
they're
they swept
going
it
to
clean.
reshape.
Yeah, reshape it and all English language news programming.
Well, we'll
Good
see.
luck.
We'll see whether the American cable companies decide to
run it.
run it, right? Or
That's the
whether
most
they
important
follow.
thing. Exactly.
Time Warner came out and said, look, we dropped current TV immediately after the sale became final. We're removing that service as quickly as possible. So we shall see where this goes. Thank you both so much.
Sure thing.